This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Previously on Talk Time Live exclusive.
Now, you said you do other things too. You also are a martial artist. You've been training for years. Even have your own dojo, Moh Martial Arts, I believe, correct?
Yes, that's right.
I love the logo, by the way. As a graphic designer myself, I do appreciate great logos, so that's a really good one you got there.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm glad I paid somebody else to do it then.
Kudos to the designer of that one, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what disciplines you're studying and, how long have you been training in the arts?
So I started when I was 12 years old. I got inspired by Bruce Lee and Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. And I finally convinced my mom to take me to the local Taekwondo school. Mm-hmm. And, I've just been training Taekwondo for, 11 years now?
Yeah.
And wait, how old am I? No, 21 years. 21 years. Holy cow! I still feel like young, but I'm an old man now.
When you're in the flow, you just you tend not to focus on things like that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 2 decades that I've been doing it. It's just become such a big part.
Look, I'm 39 and I still get called a millennial. I think I'm good.
That's cool. You're still in the 30s, so we'll just say that we're just in our 30s, which is all that needs to be said.
There you go.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily, there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course, though my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Folks, I hope you are having a great week. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news going on in the world of our favorite fandoms, including our talk topic today, which is not one, but two reviews. One being Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which you just heard one of the actors from the show that I interviewed. That would be Mike Moh. I interviewed him way back before he even knew he was going to be in a Tarantino movie, let alone a Marvel project as well, and we get to talk about all of the stuff that he led up to that time. So if you want to hear that interview and get to know all about Mike Moh, you could go to talktimelive.com/exclusive and check out the full interview with it. I guarantee you're going to absolutely love it. And some of the past due things that we talk about now, which is insane, like Jesse Smollett, it's just crazy, which I call him Jesse Smalls at the time. He was up and coming at the time. What can I say? But, I'm very proud of him. And we're going to talk about his portrayal as well as all of the actors' portrayals in there. It's going to be an interesting talk about that movie as well. And the other movie being Batman Hush, which came out recently. Got a chance to talk about, I got a chance to check that out. And we're going to talk about that as well. There's some interesting things as well. Both of them have something in common, is that there's some twisting around in both of those movies. So we're going to talk about both of those and see which one worked and which one may have not, or maybe both of them worked, but I'll let you know during that time. But before we do that, I got to say, you guys heard the last podcast, the Struggling Select Start podcast that I was doing. I was like literally under the weather with some type of throat issue. As you can hear, I'm a little bit better. I'll say 90 to 95 better. And a lot of that possibly has to do to one of our A.C.M.G members, that being Kiana Map Dunn. She actually had one of her game nights again. And here in Philadelphia, we have board game cafes, but the first one ever in Philadelphia is, in fact, the Thirsty Dice, which is down Fairmount Avenue in Philadelphia. And it's a really cool place. We went there last time. The first time was about like 6 of us that started. This time it was 9. We're hoping to see it grow. And we're trying to get these people paid because they deserve it. They have a great environment. They got over like hundreds, and I'm not joking, hundreds of board games there. One of which, there's a couple of Marvel games in there. One of them is The Godfather too. This is very interesting. I don't know if I'll ever play that one, but just having a group of people come outside of the internet and being able to enjoy each other, maybe for the first time, maybe again, and just have a great time. And that is exactly what we did. And you know what that did, people? When you're outside, and being online is one thing. Being online is cool, but you lose context. You lose the understanding. You lose the enjoyment of really interacting with people from outside. And I'm not going to discredit the internet or social media it completely, but I think it really misses the mark of doing what it was meant to do, and that was absolutely being social with each other. Instead, it's done the opposite. It's allowed introverts to hide behind the proverbial, bushes, if you will. It allowed people to be vicious without being seen, because it's like things that you would never do in real life, you would do online on social media. It's just a lot of things, like a lot of trolling and everything. I mean, there are people trolling all the time, and which the bad part is like when people troll online, it usually there is an ulterior motive to why they're doing it. And we need to try to clear that up. We need to stop that immediately. And one of the ways is just getting outside, not being afraid to step in the waters of, the world, and just getting the chance to actually interact with people that you never got a chance to see and meet, and just have fun, because the context is different from what you do online as opposed to what you do offline. And I got to thank her for that. She had she hosted a great night again. Shout out to Thirsty Dice. They are a great environment. It's a great restaurant. It's a board game cafe. It's a restaurant. They have really interesting, great food, kind of hipster like. They got their own ported sodas that they have, and the sodas are great. Like it's not like they don't do Pepsi or Coke products. They do their own, and it's actually really good. Let me see, what would I recommend? The Nashville Nachos is one of my favorites over there. So they have some really great food over there, but all of us there having a great time once again, and we're playing games that we've never played before. The game tenders, who are the kind of the hosts of people, they come over to you and they tell you, they recommend games to you, or if you want to play a game that you already know, you could tell them that's what we want to play. They'll go get it for you, or they recommend a game that you want based on the level of that you want to play, or based on the amount of people that's there. They know every single game that they have. Now, like I said, they have way over. We said 800. I don't think it's that much, but I'm thinking at least maybe 300. That's still a lot, and they got to know every one of them. So we had a great time. I mean, I love it. We're going to come back, I think, maybe in the 30th of August, which is awesome because it's going to be right after all the Keystone Comic Con festivities that I'm going to be doing. And it was just a great time. It was a great way to interact, and it helps. When people are going through things in life, the best thing to do is to be around people and have a great time. And I think if you're one of those people who maybe battling depression or going through a lot of things, or introverts, just shy people, this is a really great way. I mean, we'll welcome anybody and all. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are. We'll welcome you in, and we're just here to have a great time, and that's exactly what we did. So if you're in the A.C.M.G Facebook group and you're in the Philly area, please, I highly recommend you come with us out there every once a month out there. We're also going to try to do stuff at Sarah Green, too, and Sarah Green is, thanks to one of the people that was at the event, they informed me that this is a place that I had no idea that was around. It's a park on a roof. It's literally a park on a rooftop, and there's a huge screen. I noticed it now that I'm bike riding, that is like right across from my eye view, right there. And what it is it's a state-of-the-art park with a huge screen. They actually did a Mario Kart competition the other day, and this screen is like the size of, you guys have watched like Monday Night Raw, WWE Raw, whatever like that, or SmackDown. It's about the size of a Titantron. So it's a ginormous screen, like an arena stadium like screen, and they watch movies. They actually had they played Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or I think they're going to be playing it up soon, and they may be playing some Marvel movies or something like that, down the line. But it's another great place to hang out. We're just trying to build a community of fans and people that just, the whole point of A.C.M.G. in the first place, anime, comics, movies, and games, the group, was to create community. Not to have Facebook bitterness or anything like that. It was to create community, not for people to, be the top dog or to shine out, to everybody to enjoy all things anime, comics, movies, and games together, no matter who you are. And we're trying to find more ways to do it, and that's one of them. Going to outings, movie outings is another one. And then even still, Keystone Comic Con, that's another one that's coming up on August 23rd to the 25th. It's going to be a great event. So, honestly, it's just a great thing to do, and I highly recommend, no matter who our A.C.M.G. members are in the East Coast, West Coast, down South, whatever, if you got friends that are in the group that are, trying to do it, just try to collect with them, try to, that's what it's about. Let's make social media what it was meant to be again, and not what it's turned out to be, due to the circumstances of everything that's going on in our lives and in the lives of our country right now. This is what it was for. I'm not joking when I say this. About over 2 years ago, the environment of social media was much better, and people were so down to do things. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, it's a little bit less from that. But we're still not giving up hope. We've never given up hope. And we're starting to do it. We're starting to shine it out. So again, thank you, Kiana, and keep up the great work with that. Damn sure I'll support you through the end on this one, and everything that you got coming out that involves us all getting together and having fun. So stay there. I do want to mention one more thing before I do that, before we move on. And I mentioned Marvel games. There's one called Thanos Rising. That, we didn't play that game, but there was a couple that played it, and just before we left, I noticed it, and I was talking to the guy and his girlfriend about it, and I'm like, it's really interesting. And basically, I looked up on it online. Thanos Rising is a board game that was created by Marvel and another company that has Thanos going on search for the Infinity Stones. So this is like Thanos' quest pretty much in the comic books, but you're playing it in the game. They actually have the Infinity Stones and everything. And the object of the game is like one player plays Thanos, and I think there's other players that are the heroes trying to keep Thanos from getting the stones. The object, of course, is Thanos getting the stones, and you have to defend it. It's a really interesting game. And I looked at reviews on it, and it's a really well put together game and easy to play game. So I may try to look for this game myself and give my own review and find out, and even bring it with us, or even try to get a bunch of us to come down to Thirsty Dice and play it there. So I'll look into that, but that's awesome. It's really awesome. So yeah, again, people, let's try to create more community in the world, because we definitely need it. We need to, whatever bitterness we're going on in the world, try to find ways out of it, and we're there for you. Don't think that people are not there for you. We'll find a way. Hope is not dead. So I digress. Speaking of all the things in Keystone Comic Con, I just want to make a reminder announcement again. This week I had a chance to be interviewed for a few quotes and words from the Philadelphia Inquirer, something I never thought I would actually do. It's absolutely amazing. They contacted me about, talking about first experiences at cons and what people need to look out for. And I've been to a few myself. And of course, you guys know I've been to San Diego. That's kind of like, you don't get bigger than that. And I still got to go to New York Comic Con, which also is like, you don't get bigger than that. And, you learn a lot of things, whether covering it from a press perspective or a fan perspective. So I was able to talk to one of the reporters there, and, it will be on print. I think it's going to be on print or online. She didn't specifically say, but they're going to be working on an article. They're looking to come out with the article down right about the time of the con, which will be in a few weeks. So I don't know how many quotes I will have in there. There are other people that she interviewed as well. As far as, I think they got a few vendor merchants there. They got a few people maybe from Keystone to talk about their experience and behind the scenes things as well. So I don't know how much I'm going to be on there, but I will be on there. So it's awesome. I'd like to thank her, the reporter, for that, calling me in. I believe Abby White is the name. Yeah, her name was Abby White. And, we got a chance to talk, and we had a really great conversation in there. For those who don't know, the Philadelphia Inquirer is one of the oldest newsprints, still doing newsprints to this day. It's one of in the United States, in the whole country. They're Pulitzer Prize winners, about 20. They've won 20 Pulitzer Prizes for some of the articles that they've done. It's a prestigious, it's not just prestigious for Philadelphia, it's prestigious for the country. Like, they've been around since the Civil War. That's how old that paper has been. So to be anywhere part of that and to have that rather online or on print, that to me is it's a huge honor. Because never in my wildest dreams did I thought that I would actually be on air. So I don't know if it's going to be online. That's awesome. If it's going to be on print, that's awesome. I'll buy like 20 copies, even if it's like one sentence. But, it's just awesome that I was able to talk about one of the favorite things that I like to do on air as well. So I'll keep you guys posted on that as well as it comes out. But this has been an exciting summer. Every year I do something really cool and crazy, and I look back and I'm like, how the hell am I top this? It always seems to do it. And this year definitely is no different as well. Especially when the fact that I will be at Keystone Comic-Con doing 2 panels. And speaking of the 2 panels, we've been talked about doing a second panel for the Art of Street Fighter panel. And it looks like it's definitely a lock. I've been contacted by the people at Keystone, and along with connecting me with the 2 people and the 2 guests that I can't wait to talk to and see and meet in person. That is Long Vo and Jeffrey Chamba Cruz, who are 2 of the most exclusive Udon artists from Udon Entertainment. You guys recognize them for doing a lot of artwork in the Street Fighter series, and some of them in the games and some of them in the comics. So it'll be awesome to meet. I've actually had a chance to meet Long Vo at San Diego Comic-Con. I did some video footage of him drawing on one of the Capcom books that I did, because if you buy the book, he actually, does a sketch, and he did one of Ryu, and like, I'm not joking, probably like about 3 minutes. I got to look back at that video footage, but it's going to be an honor. It's really crazy. I keep telling people, like, the things that happen to me in my world, it's insane. Like, again, Epcot Center brought a Naruto piece, end up, finding Molly Flanagan. I brought that Capcom book and met Long Vo. Now I'm going to be interviewing him on a show and a panel. And last year, I just not even without even thinking, just purchased a book bag that just happened to be an Overwatch book bag. And now I'm hosting the Voices of Overwatch panel with 3 of the members. This is just insane. I don't know what the hell's going to happen next year. If it all happens, and this is it. I had a great ride or whatever, but this is pretty awesome. This is surreal. So that will be, we're looking to have that panel, the Art of Street Fighter panel, on Saturday, which will be at 3:15, which is August 24th. So stay tuned. Hasn't been officially announced yet, but that's the ideal date that we're working on. I've been talking back and forth with both Long Vo and Chamba, and it looks like that's what we're going to be doing. We're setting up some things to happen, what we're going to do, how we're going to set up, the panel. So we're hoping to do this for all you Street Fighter fans out there. So definitely, if you're a Street Fighter fan, which I know a lot of you are in Philly here, you definitely don't want to miss this, because these guys, you guaranteed have seen these guys work, whether in, like I said, in comics or in some of the video games. Tatsunoko versus Capcom, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. These guys have done it. They were the people responsible for doing a lot of those. So you don't want to miss that at all, coming to Philadelphia. And the fact that they're coming to Philadelphia is great, because the only time I would ever get to see these guys in person would be in the West Coast. The fact that they're coming to the East, that's really huge. That's really huge. That's one of the biggest artists that will be in Artist Alley, as well as here in the panel, along with DMC Daryl, DMC Simmons. He's a legend. I can't wait to get a chance to meet him as well, and hopefully get him on the show. So we will see from this point on, try to get these guys in and be a part of this whole entire deal. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't thank Keystone enough and Reed Pop enough for these opportunities. It's just awesome. The last thing, is that everything I got from here? Yeah, that's it. But also, remember, I will be doing the Voices of Overwatch as well on the 25th, which is Sunday at 1 to 2 p.m. with Fred Tatasciore, Jennifer Hale, and Charlotte Chung. You guys know them as Ash, Soldier 76, and Diva. You don't want to miss that one. That is going to be a really, really good panel as well. Been looking forward to meeting Fred Tatasciore for some time. I've seen him at the Marvel panel at San Diego for quite some time, and now to be able to have the Hawk and Beast, who he played on Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be so awesome. And Chronica, too, by the way. Jennifer Hale's Chronica on Mortal Kombat 11. Two of my favorite games this year, by far. Not joking, not being biased. They are. So I'm looking forward to that. But, folks, we got a lot more news to talk about, so let's not waste any time. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, so unfortunately, once again, I have to start this segment with some sad news, and it is another passing. Not as tragic as the Kyoto animation studio of last week, but this is still touching and heartwarming to a lot of fans out there. Russi Taylor, you guys may know that name. She is the voice of Disney's iconic character Minnie Mouse. She unfortunately has passed away at the age of 75 just recently, this Friday. And it was confirmed and stated by Chairman and CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, who made the announcement just recently. Russi Taylor, who a lot of you may or may not know, who was actually married to the late legendary voice of Mickey Mouse actor Wayne Alwyn, or Alwyn, I believe. And Taylor is also credited for being the original voice of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Webbigail in the original DuckTales. Not the recent one, but the original one. So, I mean, and she also played in, she played that role in all the roles, like Minnie and all of those on Kingdom Hearts, and just everywhere that, they put Minnie or all those characters in, she was there. That was her all the time. Not only that, this is another really sad loss, too, for The Simpsons, as she played the voice of Martin Prince. And that character has been around for ever. The Simpsons has been out for so long. Unfortunately, we lost another great character, and I don't know if they're going to replace her, replace that character, or I don't know what they're going to do with that. That's going to be interesting. If you guys also know, she played on Jagger's The Adventures of Piggly Wink, along with Molly Flanagan, as Annie Wink's Fernando Toro, and the mom character as well. She will be dearly missed by many. I mean, she's pretty much as portrayed by the people who work with her as the godmother of, voice acting or just acting in general, and fans all over. She will be very missed. That, Minnie, when you think of Minnie and Mickey, they were just a great pairing growing up. And, people don't really realize, Minnie and Mickey, I don't think they get the recognition that they did, years ago. Mario at this time, the character Mario from Mario Brothers is the most known character in the world now. And Mickey and Minnie kind of fell back, but they're still iconic, legendary characters that for many, many years have, been near and dear to many people in my childhood, especially. In fact, because when you saw Minnie and Mickey, that was the ideal couple. That was the original power couple for kids. Whatever Mickey goes, Minnie follows, and Minnie was always the symbol of his inspiration and happiness. And it was always there. It's just no matter what, she was always there. And there were people who have admitted in the past that they had a crush on Minnie Mouse. So she was responsible for being that character throughout the years. I bless her heart and bless her soul. Rest in peace in paradise. Thoughts and prayers to all the friends and family. That's including Molly, who worked with her, and Tara Strong, and all those characters. Charles Alden, who all spoke out on social media about their thoughts and of her and working with her. I believe it hit them hard. For what I understand, I talked to Molly about it, and online, and it really reached out to her. I know it hit her hard from there. Passing away at 75 and such, but. With that said, I always like to see light and at the end of the tunnel, per se, that cliche. And I say, yes, 75 years. But for her, it's 75 years of making people like me smile, of giving us a reason to see happiness, helping us grow up with our childhood for that long, for 75 years. You're responsible for that. And to that, I say thank you and rest in peace for that. So, I don't know what they're going to do as far as the new Minnie or whatever like that, or any of the characters that she's portrayed over the years, but we'll see. She will never be forgotten in this case, much like we don't forget Mel Blanc, much like we don't forget Wayne Alwyn, or Alwyn. I got to remember how to pronounce that name, forgive me. But, this is the one thing I do want to say, whenever a voice actor passes away, it's one thing to do that, that they pass away or something like that. But I always hate, I cannot stand this, when they take a character who's done the voice for a long time, who's been iconic for the voice, and they replace them like they did nothing. Like they're like all of the work that they did was for nothing. I hope studios, and this is at a time where people, studios don't think that, these actors, these hardworking actors, don't have a popularity of their own. Like, these people are, especially this day and age. I do believe Japan is credited for that, because in Japan, those actors who portray like Sailor Moon and Goku and all, those guys are rock stars over there. The people who are responsible for doing the original voices over there, those people are rock stars, and they're treated as such. I've seen red carpets where like people will go wild over the fact that they're seeing the voice actors of these shows. They're treated like primetime television live action actors over there. So with that said, we're now starting to see the popularity. I mean, Molly Flanagan everywhere. You got Yuri Lowenthal. You got tons of talent. Kyle Hebert, Sean Schimmel. All those guys. They're now really popular. Troy Baker, Nolan North. All those guys. They're popular now. They're extremely popular. Kevin Conroy. You can't replace these guys. These guys are now legends. These guys are now recognized. So, I really hope that they will preserve their voices for eons ahead and let these people be recognized for the legacy that they did, because this is very important. I'm hoping that that's a thing now that they're starting to do. And with that said, I hope they never replace her voice. Keep what she has there and just keep it forward from that point. I mean, I have a deep respect, especially for the guests that have been on. I had the honor of having on my show. These guys work as hard as anybody, if not harder. Losing their voice sometimes to do what they do to make us, to give us the entertainment that we love and desire. And I just hope that they, just preserve these voices for all time. And if they got new projects that they're doing involving some of the characters, and these people aren't around, that's fine. Get it, hire a new voice, but respectfully leave the old ones. Respectfully leave. I just think that it always pains me to see that. So that's all I got to say about that. But speaking of voice actors, of course, we're going to segue over to Seth MacFarlane. And look, there's no hidden, thing about it. I am a huge Seth MacFarlane fan, and this just superseded my fandom for him. What I've read about this from TMZ, actually. Seth granted a wish for a kid. There's a bunch of wish networks out there, and organizations out there that grant wishes for kids. Make-A-Wish is like the biggest one. It's the first one, actually, but there are others out there right now that are doing just as much. And Seth works alongside the Kids Wish Network, which took the time and opportunity to meet with a young fan named Chance Yun, who has cerebral palsy and suffers from what is called ROHAD. And, he's in a wheelchair. He's disabled, but he is very coherent. He's very cognitive. He loves Family Guy. So his wish was to meet Seth MacFarlane. And did he ever meet Seth MacFarlane? This right here, and before I even say this, for anybody who ever tries to throw shade and hate on Seth MacFarlane, despite not recognizing or refusing to recognize what this man has done what this man has done for a guy who's been canceled like multiple times and able to succeed out of that and persevere, only to have a like an animation empire, if you will, and TV show empire. You cannot hate on this guy, especially after what he's done here. So, along doing this, Chance, is, like I said, he's a huge fan. And not only got to meet Seth MacFarlane, but to spend time with Seth MacFarlane in his animation studio in LA. Seth also created an illustration, a cell illustration for Chance, which shows him, they drew him in the room with the Griffins. And it's a awesome picture. It's so beautiful. You look at this and it just warms your heart just looking at this. And it's a picture with him and they're all sitting on the iconic couch and they're watching TV and Peter's looking, at the TV pointing at something that was funny. And all the other characters are looking at Chance, like enjoying himself. It's so great. It's so touching. But that just doesn't stop there. He also called other cast members, Mila Kunis, Seth Green, to talk to him on the phone as their respective characters of Meg and Chris. If that isn't awesome enough, Chance and his mother also got a chance to voice the characters of Chris and Lois in a special video clip just for them. It just does not stop there. On top of all of that, Seth looked out for him and further. He looked out for him further, basically, when he allowed Chance and his family to fly in his private jet to help Chance's anxiety attacks. When he if he goes on a normal plane and there's a bunch of people there, he gets a sense of anxiety there. So to help remedy that, Seth decided to fly him home or send him home flying in his own private jet to help Chance's anxiety. Along with that, and as just an extra bonus, he also gave Chance a luggage amount of swag from Family Guy, American Dad, and The Orville. I don't want to hear a damn thing anybody tries to say about Seth MacFarlane after all, unless this dude gets caught in some type of stupid scandal or something like that. That's one thing. At this point, I don't want to hear it. This man has gone above him. And the fact that he did a Make-A-Wish thing, and that, I don't care what anybody say. They can say it's publicity, they can say it's PR. You don't have to. There are actual celebrities out there that are not doing this, that feel that they don't have to do this. They are they have a sense of entitlement. They're selfish. They got a lot of money and they don't do anything with it. There are other people who do things privately. There are other people who do want to take on this. But the fact of the matter is, it's a choice that they choose to do. And if they choose to do this regardless, it's still helping somebody out. And this helped this kid. This is a dream. Look, I dreamed of always being a fly in the wall, being in the studios as they're talking about this show. I'm living vicariously through Chance Young right now. And I'm not mad. If I had a choice, I would rather him go, and he had to pick one person. I'd definitely rather him go than myself to go, because this is a chance of a lifetime for a guy who's going through so much in his life, and to get that type of moment, you don't want to rob somebody of that at all. So to that, I say kudos to you, Seth MacFarlane, and the cast who also chimed in on there. This is awesome. At this point, I don't want to hear a damn thing about anybody saying anything bad about Seth MacFarlane. Hell of a talent, great guy, successful dude, multi-talented, and altruistic. I'm giving him that card. And by the way, because he never, I don't know how they got the information of how this happened. Maybe the Kids Network, Wish Network did, but TMZ got a hold of it, but I don't think he would have cared. I don't think it wasn't for publicity, because he's never really done anything like this before. We haven't heard him doing anything like this before. So I just think it was just fantastic. Shout out to them. I'm a faithful Seth MacFarlane fan for life, no doubt. So let's go to some anime news real quick. Toonami, they got a big coup. As you guys remember, I talked about this new anime called Fire Force, which is on Funimation now. Well, just got an announcement just yesterday, and it actually premiered yesterday on Toonami of all places. Cartoon Network and Toonami actually got the rights to air episodes of Funimation's latest, only 3 weeks old series, Fire Force. This has never been done before. So when they got Dragon Ball Super and they got was it My Hero Academia and Boruto and all this stuff, that it took months for them to get those episodes before they got it now. This is the fastest grab of a license for the rights to a anime that they've done to date. Like, I'm not joking. Episode 3 of this series literally just aired yesterday. I mean, it wasn't yesterday or Friday. It was Friday. And they are now just airing the first episode on Toonami. So now, that's crazy. I don't know what the deal was within that. I didn't get a chance to research that, but that's awesome. It premiered last night, 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, and you got to see the first episode. So, like, if you want to see the current episodes and you own Funimation now, you can check it out there. But you can also watch Toonami if you don't have it, and I highly recommend it. It's a great series so far. It has a really cool, what else I want to say? Full Metal Alchemist type of feel to it. Right now, it involves a team of firefighters with fire abilities to try to, extinguish and get rid of all of these humans or people that are just bursting into flames all of a sudden. And they're trying to find out why is that happening. Along with that, the lead character, I forgot his name. I lost those notes from last time, but the lead character actually is also trying to find out what killed his parents, or his mom at least. So you got that storyline and this other storyline going on. But these guys are awesome. The animation is awesome. The character design is awesome. This looks like this is aiming to be one of the new hottest animes out there. And the fact that Toonami grabbed it that quick, that tells you a lot about that. And we in the A.C.M.G Facebook group have been talking about this anime since it started, since it's been announced. So I'm looking forward to it. It's pretty cool. But kudos to them. Now I hope that the other thing is that we get the other JoJo episodes, because just the fact of seeing the outro with Jodeci on there. I've seen this. Somebody uploaded this, but we haven't seen this. The one after the Diamond is Unbreakable series. So I'm hoping that they grab that one and get that one up and running by the time fall comes. So we'll see. Another side note as far as Toonami, they are alerting fans about the tragedy of Kyoto Animation Studios, which is pretty awesome. They also have displayed their GoFundMe page on there, so they, a lot of support going on all around the world for that tragedy. And it is a huge tragedy. It's just absolutely awful. But it's really cool that Toonami is really going out of their way to do that, and they understand. They know the fans are out there, and they, this is what's being talked about in there. And kudos to them. They're reaching out to their fan base and their demographic really well. I really like the way they handle things on that show, on that network over there. So shout out to them on that. So some Marvel news, and this is huge. This is official. Spider-Man Far From Home, you guys know it by now, has reached the highest grossing of any Spider-Man movie ever. This also means Marvel, they reached $1 billion, by the way. I forgot to mention that part. But this also actually means that Marvel Studios will have the rights to Spider-Man for future movies and projects. There was a deal, apparently, that went on with, as far as Sony and as far as Sony, and it was Marvel Studios, that when they first started that having this agreement, that the idea for Far From Home, if Far From Home reached it, and actually, funny thing is that I found this out by watching the D.L. Hughley show, and then followed by I found the article that they were basing it on that talked about this. And on the show, they were talking about in 2015, Sony and Marvel Studios signed a deal with the stipulation being that if Marvel Studios didn't make $1 billion, Sony would once again gain control of the character, which means the horror of new Spider-Man films from Sony. Given the past history of Sony, and I'll take out Sam Raimi's first 2 movies from that point. Everything after that was just a disaster. And I'm going to add Venom into that. And I'm probably going to add all the other movies that they have with that too. They have not done Spider-Man justice at all since after 3. And I still think Raimi could have did better at 4. I think he could have learned his lesson, but they never gave him a chance to, and that's their fault for that. But they've been trying to come back and, from the trenches of that, and they have not. They have not. Like, I'm sorry, the Amazing Spider-Man series was not as good. Like, I don't even watch it now, especially now that Homecoming and Far From Home is out and all the things that involve. It's hard for me to watch those two Amazing Spider-Man movies. I can watch the Raimi movies, but it's hard for me to watch the Amazing Spider-Man movies and enjoy them as much as I enjoy Far From Home or Homecoming or Civil War or any of the Infinity movies, which, by the way, Endgame is coming out this Tuesday, so count that down. But I'm so happy. I almost was about to go to the movies like 20 more times to make sure they meet that. But shout out to everybody who did go to the movies multiple times to meet this, because that means we get to see more Spidey and we get to see what the hell is going to come of that end credit scene that we all saw. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe like phase 5 we'll see another one and see what happens from there. But I thought that was great. That was just absolutely great. And shout out to Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, and everybody involved for making that happen, and all the fans as well. So take that, Sony and Amy Pascal. So from there. Last thing I want to talk about on this segment is my thoughts on the Mr. Rogers biopic starring Tom Hanks called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I gotta admit something. I respect Mr. Rogers. I used to watch that show, but I never really got into that show or appreciated that show until recently. Like, literally, I never really understood. I don't think I was even old enough to understand, or people made me understand, or I even focused to understand the things that he did. And I really appreciate everything that man has done or tried to do. I put him in the same helm as Stan Lee. Like, he did some things during a time where people were not doing things where, like, I'm talking like civil rights type of situations, and trying to be the everyman to every man and woman, no matter what color, creed, or whatever that you are. He tried to make a better world for everybody and condition the minds of the youth to be better than what was going on at the time that he was there. And I think he succeeded to some extent. But now we have this trailer with Tom Hanks on here, and it looks great. And while Tom Hanks will no doubt have a really good performance, I mean, it's Tom Hanks, regardless, he'll do wrong. I do gotta say, while he does have the mannerisms down, it still seems a bit off, mostly because of his voice, which doesn't carry the same feel and sound familiarity. I just butchered that word. It doesn't sound as familiar as, Mr. Rogers himself. And that's possibly because I've watched a documentary, and I watched that documentary movie really, really good, which is I highly recommend it. But when he portrays the character, it feels like it's just Tom Hanks imitating him and not becoming him, because once you become the character, like, say, I'll give an example. Could I say Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg, for instance? That's one. Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles really channels it in. Really channels it in. I even give credit to Will Smith when he played Ali. Those were kind of portrayals, but I think the voice just puts me off, but that's not to say that he's not going to do a great job, because I think because he got the mannerisms down and such, I think that's what's going to lock it. I just, I think because of the voice, it doesn't suspend my disbelief, despite the fact that he is doing all the signature traits that Mr. Rogers have done. In some cases, I feel like another actor could have possibly played that, and probably played that well with the voice, because when you listen to it, it's like, oh, that's just Tom Hanks. It doesn't sound like he could change his voice to sound exactly like Mr. Rogers. But it's awesome. I think he's got a lot to do with this project, too, so that's why I think, that's happening. With all that said, the movie looks good, and I think that it'll be an absolutely fine tribute to one of the most influential icons in our childhood, without a doubt. I highly recommend, though, watching that fantastic, heartwarming documentary that came out in the movies a while back. I got a chance to see it. It's fantastic. They cover everything that he's done based on the time and era that it was in the 60s, 70s. And like I said, he broke barriers, man. Like just one of the actors who was African American. And, this was at the time when racism was at its high in his mid 60s, late 60s, going into the 70s. And he did segments with he was an officer, by the way, too. The cop was an officer, and they decided to, share. It was a hot day. The premise that it was a hot day, and he wanted to, he was keeping his feet wet, trying to keep cool. And the officer comes in and decides to join him. And you got a black man and you got a white man enjoying a cool off together outside and sharing, a conversation with each other. That was a big thing back then because of that. It's the same thing as when like Stan Lee did his soapboxes and talking about, racism and all that stuff and, the ignorance of it all. Stuff like that during the 60s and coming out with the X-Men and doing all, it's in that same boat. And when you see the trailer of the movie, and if you've watched that biopic, not a biopic, but the actual the biography of that, you see the footage and everything that it matches up. It's just the voices are different. So but I highly recommend checking it out. He was a game changer. He was a game changer. I see what he did, and I would love to see another Mr. Rogers in this world. I would love to see another Stan Lee in this world because we need people to have this type of conversation. And the way he did it, and with kids that were watching, and the way he did it, like when I think when the Vietnam War came out, he addressed it in his own way, in a way that kids can understand, or at least have that form of conversation with family. The family is watching it, watching him do it, and then he's doing it, talking about it, and it addresses the issues that's going on. And he did it in such a great way that it allows a really innocent type of conversation with family. It's just amazing what this man has done. So I'm looking forward. What I really am going to be interested in seeing is if he's going to be nominated for an award for this. Honestly, I'm just looking at the trailer alone. Like I said, he's going to perform this great, but the accuracy is going to be off because of the voice. Because it sounds like Tom Hanks. It just sounds like Tom Hanks just imitating that dude. But we'll see. We'll absolutely see on that. Folks, that will do it for this version of What's New in the World of A.C.M.G. We're going to take a break, come back, and do not one, but two reviews. One of them of Batman Hush and the other of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review. We'll do that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mike Moh. You are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Os. Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
All right, folks, we are back with our talk topic of the week. And it is our two reviews of Batman Hush and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We're going to start with Batman Hush because I do want to talk about that first, and because I think I got a lot more to talk about with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Batman Hush is the latest DC animated movie that come out, and this one is about Batman who sets out to learn the identity of a possible new villain, and I say that on quotations, possible new villain named Hush, who created chaos not only in Gotham, but in Bruce's past as well. So Batman Hush also picks up directly after the events of The Death of Superman and Reign of Superman, which I thought was cool, because there's really no real connection for it, because The Death of Superman was way before the New 52, if I'm correct. And then Batman Hush. Well, no, they both are connected because I think Batman Hush came out before the New 52 as well. So, but I don't remember if Hush came out or Jim Lee started working for the company after the fact. So the timeline, I got to figure out the timeline there. But I think Hush came out later, and it did come out later because Jim Lee wasn't working for. Jim Lee was working for Image at the time when Death of Superman came out. And then he worked for DC shortly after, and he came out with Hush as one of the first ones. So I believe that was his debut. So that's what also made that one so special, because it was like the debut of Jim Lee working for DC, I believe as writer and artist, of course. And it's one of the most heavily loved sagas in the Batman and DC and comic book universe, industry right now. So this basically, it was supposed to tell the story that many have read in the comics. It did not exactly do that. It went a different direction there. And it's going to be interesting to see. There's a lot of people who liked it. There's a lot of people who didn't like the direction that they went with it. But we're going to talk about it. Let's start with just the stand-up performances, which really, after watching it, this movie itself was just another stellar movie. Was it the best? Well, not exactly the best Batman movie I've seen. The performances, there weren't really anything standing out. And that's not saying anything bad, because that's actually just, it's as good as what you expect from all of the actors that normally portrays these actors. You got Jason O'Mara returning as the 52 version of Batman. And I got to stress it out because how they did it, if you guys remember way back in Flashpoint, which they kind of switched and everything changed, Kevin Conroy was the original Batman, and then when all the universe changed from what the Flash did, it turned into Jason O'Mara's version. So they kind of just switched it out, but Kevin Conroy still reprised the role from time to time in different movies and whatnot from there. But you also had Jennifer Morrison as Catwoman, who also did a phenomenal job as always. They're so used to doing these characters now. It's as good as you would expect it to do. Jerry O'Connell, who actually is one of my favorite voices of all of the DC universe, because I grew up with Jerry O'Connell, and if you hear him in interviews or you hear him in other shows, he does not sound like what he sounds like in here. So the fact that he can change his voice to sound really masculine and heroic, as you would expect from Superman, to me, that is always amazing to me. And then you also got Rebecca Romijn, who returns as Lois Lane as well. So, and many others who are reprising their roles as well. They all did a stellar job. So it's nothing really stood out to me this time that doesn't normally stand out to me on other movies. So it was just going with the motion here, but in a great way. So I can tell you, as far as favorite moments, the only ones that really stood out to me was Stuart Allen, because there was the scene in here. The idea is that, Catwoman decides that she wants to now work with Bruce. More like work with Batman and team up with him and change her ways to some extent. And that's the thing that goes on here. So they become a partnership, a duo, if you will. Not exactly sidekick to sidekick, but, hero to hero in a sense. But they also start dating as well, and eventually Bruce reveals himself to her completely. And this is another thing that I don't think was around too. I don't think Damian was around during the Hush deal. I think he came years later after that. Obviously, because he wasn't around until the 52. I'm not a DC reader like that, but I believe he traces during the 52 and after that, or the Rebirth as well. So he's around during the Rebirth saga as well. So he was never around during when Hush came out, but for the DC animated universe, he's there. But there's this one little moment that's really funny with him talking to Bruce while he's driving over to see Selina, and his own son, Damian, his son, the heir to the League of Assassins, if you will, gives him the talk. The talk that your parents give you when you're dating somebody. Damian is amazing. Stuart Allen, who plays the voice of that character, he does him really well. I think because of Stuart Allen's portrayal of him, made me love that character so much more, because you get to visualize what he's very. I've always said he's kind of Vegeta, It's like Bruce Wayne had a child with Vegeta. You get Damian Wayne. But the fact that he gave him a talk and said you had, make sure you use protection and all this stuff. And I'm like, yo, this dude is he's so extra right now. So that absolutely is one of my favorite scenes of the whole entire thing. The other one is like near the end, because part of the reason of the debate between Selena and Bruce is that, or Catwoman or Batman, is that she's all about just like ending the situation. So if you got an enemy, you don't want to keep this enemy to keep going. Some people are like, they don't want to see the terror continue, so they're going to end it in any type of way. But Batman has a Bushido, the code of Bushido, if you will, which is like, honor anybody and see, there's good in everybody. So I want to make sure that no matter how many times that you do crimes or whatever like that, I'm going to save you because you need to be saved. And that goes for everybody, even the Joker to some extent. There is a time where he's almost losing his cool because there was a setup situation where he was supposed to, Thomas Elliot, Dr. Thomas Elliot, which is Bruce's best friend, which in the comics is Hush. In this version, he dies. That's the big twist. That's one of the biggest twists in here, is that he dies early. And you're like, okay, is this real? Did this really happen? Did he die? And it is made to look like the Joker did it, which then leads Bruce to going insane because he killed his best friend, one of his old time best friends. His best friend, who he said we need to hang out more because we don't get a chance to hang out as much as we used to, and they were trying to redevelop their relationship, their friendship, only to see him shot. What it was supposed to look like, it was the Joker that killed him, and Batman nearly beat him to high hell and death. And the Joker himself ended up saying, if you're going to kill me for something that I did. Don't do it like this. And even Gordon was like, I don't want you to die like this. You need to be the hero that everybody needs. And that kind of toned him out. At the same time, like the character Hush just happened to like set up all these elaborate plans. So, to throw Bruce off of the scent of, the situation. It wasn't until Batman figured out who it was, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it in a minute. We'll go back into that in a second. But, that was a big throw off there. Let's talk about the animation quality of the movie. This, to me, was also one of the glorious parts of this movie. We all know DC, as far as America and American animation, DC has absolutely the best. There's no debate. They have the best animated movies and TV shows in America, bar none. And this kind of furthered it up because I believe that this is Batman Hush and how really fans are really connected to this story and how much are the fans of the story. I think they went out of their way to give this movie a close to as possible Jim Lee look and feel as you could possibly have, adding some new shadowing and lighting to the character models and designs, as well as some frames added during fight scenes to give it more of a fluidity when throwing, fast-paced punches and kicks. Like, the fight scenes are really good. And they've been great for some time. Like, if you watch Reign of the Superman, the fighting was there, really well there. If you watch The Death of Superman, like the Doomsday fight, my God, that thing is crazy. I think that was the best fight since the fight between Superman and Apocalypse on Batman Superman Apocalypse, which I've always loved that fight scene. But I think the Doomsday and Superman one took it further, and they're continuing it on here. But I just noticed that there's a little bit more frames to the animation in this one here. Also noticeable is the close-ups when Batman, which has a little bit more detail and shadowing. If you guys are fans of Jim Lee, if you're comic book fans that are fans of Jim Lee, his art style consists of a lot of lines and to create shadows and really intricate lines and stuff like that. Like, oh God, and again, if you ever go to San Diego Comic-Con and you're a comic book fan, go to Jim Lee's panel. I go every single time that I go. I do not miss it. It's like going to a Rolling Stones rock concert for me to see him draw some of the characters that he does. And it's so awesome to see him do that live and in person. It's if you're a comic book fan, you got it. It's just so fantastic, man. So, I mean, yeah, I think they went all out to give tribute, and deservingly so, because Jim Lee really changed the game for DC. Like, just being there, just drawing anything for DC. If you're Jim Lee and you work for a company, he's going to elevate your company just by drawing a variant cover, which now that's what they call them. Back then, it was like when Jim Lee used to draw covers on, comic books, but never draw the actual comic book. We used to have a saying that, we got Jim Lead. Because, you draw this elaborate variant covers, and then you would get the cover and then find out later on he never drew a damn panel in there. It was drawn by somebody else who are possibly good, but nowhere near as good as what you expect from Jim Lee. So it was kind of a turnoff. So now they call them variant covers. That's the actual saying for it. I love that term. But while they could never truly bring that art style to life, in the way that fans would love, I thought they did a really good job attempting, and therefore stepped up the quality of the movie big time. All right, so let's talk about this twist. I wasn't exactly thrilled by the fact that they not only killed, the original character of Hush, which was Thomas Elliot, but they made Hush the Riddler instead of Thomas Elliot. I don't know what went into that. I don't know, but, Thomas Elliot was the real man behind the Hush character, because it was supposed to be, from what I understand, is that, Elliot was very mad and jealous that he never, he screwed, he wasn't there for him all those years, and this is him taking revenge. So, for some reason, instead of, telling a story that new fans can understand, they decided to go with making the Riddler Hush and making this elaborate this plan of, manipulating Poison Ivy and, who manipulates Superman and Catwoman, which, by the way, I could have sworn, and again, I'm going by full animated series here, but I always thought and was told that Poison Ivy could only, control men because of their hormones and not the pheromones situation of a female. Like, women couldn't be tamed of it. But in this movie, apparently, she can control both female and male. So I don't know if things changed at that point. I haven't followed the comics, especially as far as Poison Ivy, but, maybe things have changed. But I thought that was really noticeable there, that, she can do that now. So, maybe somebody from the DC Universe readers can tell me and inform me that, she's upped her ante and, her toxin is now controls anybody, which I can see happening. I can see them writing that off. Eventually, that would probably have to happen. But yeah, that was a noticeable thing. But, going through all these ropes and then to find out that it's like what they consider in the movie a C-lister and the Riddler becoming Hush, it kind of diluted. It really diluted the whole entire premise. It's like, oh, come on, you serious? So we don't get a new villain to really marvel at. No pun. But you give us the Riddler again, who just, who did all this because he was losing his mind. He got a lobotomy or something, and he couldn't think the way he did. And Batman caught on to it when he, figured out one of the clues that he did. So it really pretty much, it kind of turned it down. So overall, Batman Hush was good, but not nowhere by far as good as like any of the Batman movies of the past. But it was still good. I still enjoyed it. Don't get me twisted. I just felt like while the presentation of the movie was great, I think the idea of changing the story around kind of diluted the movie, and the chance for new fans who've never read the actual classic saga to see a brand new villain in Batman's rogue gallery. And it's because of that I have to put this grade down to a B at best, and to a B, because the thing that saves it is the acting and the actual animation quality. But the story was good until they did that, and hopefully we'll find out what went into them changing that before. And I know they changed some things in there, but that was a big twist. That's a big thing. Like if I'm a new fan, if I'm a casual fan of DC, and I've heard so much about this, which I have, I would like to see what makes Thomas Elliot such a big deal, and that made this story a big deal. So I gotta believe you're a huge fan if you read that book and this is really now getting me the chance to finally. I do own the book. I never read it. This because again, I was more a Marvel fan than DC, but I think now is the time I'm going to actually read it and follow up with this and see if what fans are going to think of this. But I can only imagine if you're like a fan who read that book and loved that book, cherished. You got to be upset at that. You really got to be upset. And I can't blame him for that. But I give it a B. As a casual fan, I enjoyed it for what it was. But I know from just what I know of the story, from what I've seen in games and whatnot, that that has the Hush character in there. That he was a big deal. He was a major big deal for people. So you didn't get the payoff. So I understand that. So I give it a B personally. Other fans may actually go down a little bit further, maybe give it a B- or a C at that. But for what it's worth, it's a quality looking Batman film, but not by far the best. I can go down the line of what's the best one. I don't even think this is going to make the top 10. And Batman has a lot of movies. I don't think this is going to even make the top 10 as far as best Batman movies right now. So there you go. So let's go to the other one that we're going to talk about, and that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quinton Tarantino's 9th film focuses on 1969's Los Angeles, and where everything is changing as the fictional TV star Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and longtime stunt double also fictional character Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, make their way around the industry that hardly recognizes them anymore. And they basically, Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth are actors from an old Western from back in the day. They were highly famous for that. Cliff Booth played his stunt double for that. It was funny because they were saying that they looked just like during a segment on air. They were doing like a really quick old-timey black and white interview. And they were talking about the stunt double, and they looked the same. They look nothing alike. I just thought it was hilarious that they did that, but that's classic Quentin Tarantino there. They didn't make, this movie is also based around the time and place where the Mason family, involving Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel, under the direction of Charles Manson, murdered Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, and a few others in that horrible, horrible, legendary death that just shocked and put a pause on everybody back then. According to Wikipedia, legendary music producer Quincy Jones had actually planned to visit that home that very evening, but declined, unbeknownst to him, that the Mason family would eventually be there. So, I mean, seriously. We would have lost Sharon Tate and all of those other people there, but also music legend Quincy Jones. Do you understand? Okay. I can't even stress to you, if we would have lost Quincy Jones that day, and all the music that we would have not had today. And I'm sorry, I had to say this. That would have been including, even though the situation and the controversy, that would have been including Michael Jackson Thriller, Bad, Q's Juke Joint. Everything that Quincy Jones had done would not have been done had he gone. It just shocks the hell out of me. That really shocks the living hell out of me. If that is absolutely fact from Wikipedia, I can't. Quincy Jones is responsible for not just Michael Jackson's music, but a lot of people's music. Legendary music producer. That shocked the hell out of me. When I saw that, when I read that, and I was like, oh my God. Majority of my playlist of classic songs from the 80s and some of the 90s was in fact from Quincy Jones. We would have not had The Secret Garden. Do you know how many babies were made because of that song? Okay. Like legit, no joke. He's made some baby making songs for people. Oh my goodness. That, I mean, not saying that anybody else's life wasn't, but that one right there. I mean, Sharon Tate alone, she was an up-and-coming, actress, and she was pregnant at the time when they killed her. I mean, she was like 9 months pregnant when they murdered. That was it's horrible. Anybody, man. Just absolutely horrible. So, let's talk about standout performances. To me, it wasn't many. I mean, Sharon Tate was played with Margot Robbie. I thought she did an okay job, but it didn't stand out to me. I give that the same case as I would give Tom Hanks. it was Margot Robbie. When I heard her voice, I felt like I still heard Harley Quinn. I thought she did a great Harley Quinn, but I still felt like I heard the voice of, Harley Quinn or Margot Robbie in there. I didn't exactly hear Shannon Tate. But of course, I haven't watched a Shannon Tate movie before, so I don't know for those who watch it, but I can only go by what I heard. I've heard her had that tone and mannerism before, but she did kind of play a little bit of a, open-minded, I'll just say that, person. And I guess that's what Shannon Tate was. But Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton, I loved his portrayal. And I don't go see too many, Leonardo DiCaprio movies. I've seen a couple. But I see what everybody sees in him and why he's such a big deal. Because his role in this was just crazy. He plays Rick Dalton as a sort of washed-up leading man of Western TV, shows, now looking to find himself again in Hollywood and try to stay afloat. Because the idea apparently is that when shows get canceled, especially comes Western shows, the lead actor of that show, as explained by Al Pacino's character, the characters of those shows wound up becoming the bad guy of another show for an up-and-coming, for pretty much an up-and-coming new actor who plays the lead role in a Western. Now, the funny part about this is that when he explained that, there was a scene where Rick Dalton, and I forgot what Al Pacino's character is in this, but there's a scene when they're in a restaurant and he plays a actual famous director, and they're having this conversation and he explains this, and I really felt like they're talking about the wrestling business. That's exactly what happens in the wrestling business. Not in the sense that like when somebody gets canceled, they kind of elevate the guy who was the leading guy to, be the bad guy to help elevate the new lead actor. But in a sense, that there's a part of that that's reminiscent of what happens in the wrestling business. When a guy becomes of age or whatever like that, and he's been around for a long time. They get a new guy to come in, and the old guy helps elevate the new guy by losing to the old guy because of the prestige of what the old guy has. If the new guy beats the old guy, then it helps elevate him to an extra. I'll give you an example: Brock Lesnar to Hulk Hogan. Brock Lesnar beat Hulk Hogan, dominated him. Brock Lesnar dominated The Rock at SummerSlam. Those examples. I mean, he literally dominated him. And I give you another example, a real world example of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar beats, Randy Couture, legit. Like that wasn't fake or anything. He legit beat a legend, and he became the bigger guy, the new guy in the block. So, that all that kind of happens like there. This pretty much sounds the same thing from here. So, but watching the character Rick Dalton, try to handle that, and he's always drunk. He's every scene that you see him in, he has a glass with him. He's like, he can't operate unless he's drunk. At least he thinks that he can't operate unless he's drunk. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought Leonardo DiCaprio did a great job portraying this character and, going through it, becoming somewhat of an emotional wreck as things go on and thinking that he's in control because he's drinking all the time. So Brad Pitt plays as Cliff Booth, which is actually Rick's driver and friend, but also Rick's stunt double when they filmed the old Western series. But, as the series ended and, Rick became, just a side character, pretty much Cliff he didn't do any more stunt work he did some stunt work at a time, but after a while the only thing he did was just drive around Rick because Rick pretty much got into too many accidents because he was under the influence. So he decided to be his personal, driver, his wingman pretty much. He literally was his wingman, and they were really good friends. And they had a really good relationship. He was his most trusted dude. He's kind of like the Arn Anderson to Ric Flair. That's exactly the best way I could put it. So you had that. And I loved the way that he handled it. And there was also a situation where they claimed that Cliff actually killed his wife and got away with it in the sense that, in court, he was proven innocent or proven to be able to get away with it in some case. Now, in some cases, I thought that he was going to somehow, some way, he was going to turn out to be the Charles Manson character, but it's not. It was just something totally different. But that was the case. But that was a whole other thing right there. Then we got to hear the guy that I got a chance to had the honor of interviewing, that you heard in the clip that you can hear on TalkTimeLive.com/exclusives. Mike Moh. Mike Moh got the opportunity of a lifetime once again. You guys know him as Ryu on Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, and then all of a sudden, years later, he's in a Quinton Tarantino movie. Not only is he in a Quentin Tarantino movie, and I'm not being biased, this has been said by many people, and I agree, he stood out more than everybody. I think he kind of did. He was only in there for he was there for a second. He got a lot of lines for the segment that he did, and they showed him every so often throughout the movie, but not doing, he had one really big role with Brad Pitt, and it was this really cool scene that really stood out of the whole entire thing. And I remember there were times, who can I say? Dwayne Johnson. The first time he ever got on film was the Scorpion King. The Mummy 2, the Scorpion King. He was only in there for 5 minutes. Literally, for just 5 minutes. And that elevated his career to what he is now. His presence and everything really stood out right there. I don't know if Mike Moh's career will get to that level, but damn it, this movie really put a shine on him like you wouldn't believe. Everybody's talking about his portrayal as Bruce Lee. And I talked about Tom Hanks, engulfing into the character of Mr. Rogers. I talked about Margot Robbie as Shannon Tate. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. I love it, not just because of his actorial abilities, his philosophy, his Jeet Kune Do philosophy, his Taoism philosophy. He was an awesome guy, also a very charismatic and arrogant dude as well. But if you listen or watched all of his interviews, you see the swag in the dude. You see how much of a cool cat he is. Bruce Lee can be invited to any cookout ever, bar none. One of his first students was African American too. So he's been around the block. So, but Mike Moh, who if you heard the soundbite, the segment, the clip of the segment that I did, he's always been a big fan of Bruce Lee. He's mentioned that. So for him to be able to play Bruce Lee now, he did not waste it. He acted exactly like Bruce Lee. He looked like, when he had the glasses on especially, he looked just like him. He acted just like him. He sounded just like him. They couldn't have cast a better dude to play this role. They possibly could have, but they managed to give it to Mike. He knocked it out the park. And I was so gleeful because I'm like, damn, I interviewed this dude when he played Ryu. And he played a great Ryu. So, this guy, I know he had a pretty much an up and down type of situation. He played in Empire as Steve Cho. He then got the opportunity to really shine, with the indie project of Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. And he shined there and people started taking notice. He then ended up going, again, if you listen to our interview, we talked about him portraying in a Marvel film. And I think now that I know that he said that he was trying to get a role in a Marvel film, and I think it might have been Iron Fist. I could be wrong on that, but I got a feeling that was the one that he was trying to go for. But he wound up being Triton from Inhumans, which, as you guys know, didn't fall through as successful as you would think. But out of all that, he somehow landed this role as Bruce Lee, and he ran with it big. He did not waste his opportunity at all. He's been talked about immensely in reviews and everything. This guy, and even the cast, Quentin Tarantino praised him. Brad Pitt praised him, and for great reason. So kudos to him, man. I couldn't be so happy and honored to have him on the show, but I couldn't be more proud to see him in his life shine. He's just been doing it, and hopefully seeing him on this, hopefully we'll get him in even bigger roles from this point on, because that was amazing. that role of that Bruce Lee portrayal was just spot on. So the last person I say would be a standout performance. Believe it or not, I thought I saw her on the trailer, and it is her, Julia Butters. If you guys ever watched the comedy on ABC, American Housewife, she plays the little girl Anna Cat, which is kind of the, I forgot, she kind of has like, I don't know what kind of condition she has, like a kind of an OCD condition or whatever like that. But in this movie, she plays an actress, or what she considers an actor, Trudy. And I'm telling you, her doing that scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and having a conversation she was the more mature one of the two in here, and she was demanded respect. She was playing a method actor, if you will, and because on the set she wanted to be that character. She didn't want to be. And I was like, wow. I don't know how old she is, but this young girl carried herself like a 20 or even 30-year-old, a seasoned actor or actor. And I was so amazed by her performance with somebody with the caliber of Leonardo DiCaprio. It was just absolutely amazing. She stood out like gangbuster. And the fact that she was able to not only do this and knock this role out, but to do it in a Quinton Tarantino movie, my goodness, man. I can't say enough about her. She reminded me of how Kirsten Dunst did in Interview with a Vampire. And, when she did that role in Interview with a Vampire, her career just went like completely up direction. The glass ceiling was broken with her when she did that role at such a young age. I'm hoping that Julia Butters go through the same thing, man. It's just really great. Favorite moments. I'm going to say that the Julia Butters scene with Leonardo DiCaprio is definitely one of them. But also Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, he throws a rage of anger at himself for getting wasted and messing up lines during that actual scene that they did on there, which led to Julia Butters having that conversation with him and everything. It was just that had to be my favorite entire scene when he did that scene through the whole entire movie, bar none. But he goes into a rage and he's talking to himself and he's threatening himself and he's, talking about he's drinking too much, he's messing up lines, he needs to get focused, and he threatens himself to make sure that he gets focused. This scene reminded me of when William Dafoe talked to himself in the scene of Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man. One of my favorite scenes of the entire movie when he, he gets possessed and such with the gas and everything, and he now thinks that there's another person in the room, but he's actually talking to himself. This was kind of the same type of performance that I saw in that, and I really admired that scene. I'm like, this is why Leonardo is who he is and why everybody loves this dude. It's just, I grew up watching Leonardo DiCaprio when he was a kid, and he was on like Growing Pains and all these other really shows as a kid actor, and to see him like this, whew. This dude is breathtaking. He absolutely. Again, Mike Moh is Bruce Lee with the spot-on performance, probably the best in his career. But also the very scene with him and Cliff, doing a sparring match with each other. And I thought that was pretty awesome as well, showing that him and Cliff are having this really cool, thing. Bruce is kicking him, doing his flying kick. And then, to everybody's surprise, we didn't see this coming. Cliff ends up, he knows martial arts himself, and ends up in a situation where he maneuvers and counters Bruce to the point that he throws him, almost like a judo style, he throws him into the side of this blue car with this huge-ass dent, and they're going back and forth fighting until Kurt Russell's character actually stops him and stops the whole match. So we never really get who won up the other, because every one of them kind of won up the other person in some sense. They both got a little bit of a lick into each other. So it never stops. So that they leave you with wanting more from this situation, because it was like, how would this end? So you got this fictional character playing against Bruce Lee and doing this. It was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic. I love the scene because everybody in the theater, when they saw that, and it was just such an impact of Bruce hitting the car. It was like boom. It was like, and the crowd, and all of us in the crowd, like, oh damn. It was like that type of thing because we didn't expect it, but I thought it was great. I thought they did a great job in that scene. Just absolutely awesome. I want to take note too. The reason why Bruce Lee is in this film, and this will lead into other conversations about maybe why some people, just a minority of people may not like the film. I think when you watch this type of film, when you watch a Quentin Tarantino film, there's some expectations. One of them is violence. That's something that was not exactly in there. There's moments of action and suspense and violence, but not as much as what you see in other movies. But I'll talk about that later on. But if you do your homework about the Manson murders and all the things that led up to that and stuff like that, it's noted that Bruce Lee was in the movie because he trained Shannon Tate for her role in the movie The Wrecking Crew. And they were friends with each other and they knew each other. Like Bruce Lee, if you guys remember, Bruce Lee trained a lot of people, one of which was Shannon Tate. Another one was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, NBA legend. He had a chance to be trained with him for a role that he did in a movie as well. So this was another one. This was right after the time that Bruce was. This was shortly after the time that Bruce played Kato on the Green Hornet, and that show, did its time and whatever. So he was still in Hollywood trying to get his name mentioned and known out there, and he was working and consulting in Hollywood as well at the time. So that's why he came into the point. And Quentin, I guess, felt that it was great to add him on and to find somebody because he was a pivot. He was kind of, I don't want to say pivotal, but he was a significant role in the story of the Manson murders and whatnot from there. So then, of course, you had that. I talked about the Julia Butters thing. Also, the scenes where they CGI'd and replaced Steve McQueen with Rick Dalton because they were talking about how Rick was supposed to play the role in The Great Escape, the role of Steve got in The Great Escape, which, if you guys seen the actual movie The Great Escape, Steve McQueen has that role. It was there was rumored that Rick Dalton was supposed to get that scene, and it kind of lit a fire, and Rick Dalton mentioned it, to which Rick was like, no, that never really happened. But they show scenes of him actually being in that movie or auditioning for that movie or whatnot or whatever. So that was an interesting thing right there. I love that. Another thing is the final film performance of Luke Perry as he played the character Scott in that really pivotal scene in the Western scene where, which leads to Leonardo or Rick Dalton actually getting raged out because he kept messing up lines. So it was really cool to Luke Perry there. Quick note, for those of you who don't know, his son is actually, whose name goes by the name Jungle Boy. He's a professional wrestler. Luke Perry was a huge wrestling fan and supported his son. His son is now contracted for the new AEW wrestling company that will be premiering on October 3rd coming up, and he's one of the biggest stars that they have in there. He actually did a tribute to his father. In Hollywood, they have the billboards of all of the characters, Leo's character, Brett's character, Shannon, Margot. Mike Moh has his own billboard as well. I mean, like Quentin Tarantino really did it. He looked out for him and really put him in a limelight right there. It was really awesome that he did that. But also Luke Perry as well, which is pretty cool. And Jungle Boy climbed that billboard in honor of his father and took a picture of it right there, showing his pride for his father. And it's also noted that Luke Perry would also go to almost every wrestling event that Jungle Boy would attend as well, and as well as other ones that he didn't attend. Like, he was really a big fan of that too. So it was really great to see him one more time. Luke Perry is just loved by everybody, and it's so sad that how he actually is going. So I'm also interested in seeing what they're going to do to tribute him on 90210 when that comes back as well. So we'll see. We will see. The twist at the end, I don't want to go too much into it because I know people actually want to see this movie or wonder what happened with this movie, but much like how in Tarantino fashion, when he's basing his movies off of things that happen in history, there's always a twist to it. And just like you saw in Inglourious Basterds, which was like a fiction loosely based on reality, so is this movie. And what you think is going to happen in this movie, there's some there's an alter direction to what happens in the movie. And I won't actually say what happens, but what I'm going to say is I am very pleased with how they did it as well, and what happened with this thing, and it was really an interesting take on what happened at the very day of the Manson murders right there. So be interested in seeing. I think the people, the family of Shannon Tate, actually did see the movie. I forgot whether they approved of it or not, but I know they're still, hurting from that situation, and the fact that Charles Manson is even still alive or was alive, for that matter. It's crazy. It was really crazy. But overall, while this movie was not the best Tarantino movie made, but it still was really good in my opinion. Strong performances, standout talent, and a cool altered story based on the most memorable and tragic moment in 1969 as far as pop culture in Hollywood at that time. This movie had a lot to offer and appreciate, despite the fact that the action and violence was subtle in comparison to other Quentin Tarantino's movies. And I think I've heard that some people didn't like the movie, and I think what I understand, here's the thing, and I guarantee you I could put money on this. Some people came in thinking that they were going to get this Kill Bill, this Sinful Seven, this, what you expect from Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and all this stuff. No, this was more of, it chimed on 1969, an era where things weren't that violent, but at the same time, it was a bit subtle. There was more of a narrative and storytelling and character developed type of thing in here. It didn't do the timeline thing that Tarantino does so well, that Marvel tried to do with the comic book series like Civil War II and all that stuff, but that's a whole nother thing. But what he did here was just like from start to finish, storyline of everything that was going on in people's lives at the time leading up to the day of the Manson murder. And while it did lack that, I still felt that it was very strong portrayals and stories and, character driven storytelling in here. And I thought that was really good in here. And then there were some standout performances, like I said before. What you would expect from Brad Pitt and what you expect from Leonardo DiCaprio, but also Mike Moh. I think this is going to be a really big deal for him. And Julia Butters, the girl is going to go, I think she's going to get more weight. I think both of them should get way more roles from this point on. It's really going to be cool. So for people who haven't read up on the situation of the massacre that happened back then and the tragedy that happened back then, if you're coming in just looking for violence and action, all out action, start through finish, then you're going to be disappointed. That's not what you should be coming in for. You're coming in to find out the intriguing story of how everything came about. If you came in to see the murder of Shannon Tate and all this stuff, you're psychotic and you need help. That's the thing. And I think that's what everybody was wondering about, whether they're going to actually do that or show that. I won't spoil it, but you'll just have to see it for yourself and see how they do it. But I thought what they did, they handled it really well in this case. But yeah, you got to take it for what it is. And it's not going to be about violence. You have to read it for what it is. And it was telling about a story and timeline. You're just checking about how these characters are, developing within the times that they are at and what is going on in their lives at the time. I thought it was pretty cool. It's not a movie that I'm used to checking out, but, for the most part, I enjoyed what I saw. I really enjoyed what I saw, and I got to see one of the biggest things was see Mike Moh portray Bruce Lee. And I think all of that combined, I really enjoyed it. So if I'm going to give this a grade, I'd probably be a B+. Like I said, it's not. This movie is not meant to be an action film entirely, but the strong character-driven periods, the period piece that wanted to tell a story, what should have happened using fictional characters leading the path. I enjoyed it for what it was. So I give it a B+. So I would definitely recommend going out to see it, but you need to see it under a different perspective. If you're looking for what you saw from Reservoir Dogs or Kill Bill especially, or the Sinful 7 or 8 or whatever that was, or Django or stuff like that, you're not going to get that. He went for a total different feel and direction, and I thought he did pretty damn good with it. So I would recommend going out of the way to see it, but you just need to have a different perspective and outlook when you go see it. So, folks, that will do it for this edition of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. Thank you guys so very much. as of next week, it's going to be August. We're counting down to the days of Keystone Comic-Con making their sophomore, attempt to wow us this year at Keystone Comic-Con. So I am looking forward to it. I'm going to be a part of it. Go out of your way to check it out. I hope you guys will come and see me there with some of the actors from who voices the Overwatch game. That will be Fred Tatasciore, Charlotte Chung, and Jennifer Hale. You guys are going to enjoy it definitely, and especially. And I've seen Fred Tatasciore before. He's a really cool dude, and the voices that he does and how he does, he's very Mel Blanc like, in a sense that, like, if you've played Ultimate Alliance 3 and you didn't realize that he was both the Hawk and Beast, that's how good he is. So you can't tell the difference. It's so cool. I'm going to ask about that too. But, go out of your way to check that out. If you're an Overwatch fan, you definitely want to check it out. I'm going to be laced up representing Overwatch, representing a whole bunch of other things in Philadelphia. You'll see. But I'm ready for it, as well as the Art of Street Fighter with Long Vo and the Chamba. Can't wait for that. I'm a huge Street Fighter fan, as you all know. Just from an artistic standpoint, I'm a Street Fighter fan. And in fact, I'm doing a panel for it. Awesome. So stay tuned for that, as well as every other thing that's going on. For Harry Potter fans, there's going to be Harry Potter things going on. Star Trek fans, they got something for you there as well. Just a lot of things. John Carpenter is going to be there. Horror fans, they got you looking out. Hip-hop fans, Daryl Simmons is going to be there. The legendary DMC is going to be there. As a comic book, under the comic book artist Ali. So go check it out. If you ever wanted to meet the legend himself, go out of your way to check it out there. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to make sure this is damn awesome. A.C.M.G. fans, if you check it out, go there, support them, And if you want it to be bigger, and here's the thing, I got to say this too. There are people who are, wanting everybody to be there. Tom Holland, Robert De. First of all, do you know how much money it costs to get those guys to come to any event, let alone ours? It's not to say that they won't or we can't get that caliber, but this is their second show. You can't, you could tell when people don't understand how things work in the industry when they ask really astronomical things like that. It costs money to do that. If you were the one behind the scenes of that, you would understand that. But these guys are working hard to create something new. And if you keep supporting it, it will get bigger. If you want it to be as big as New York Comic Con, if you want it to be as big as San Diego Comic Con or Dragon Con or any of those cons, you have to support it. So if you want it, if you put into it, they will give you more. They are working hard to give you as much as possible here, as much as they can. Trust me, if you work behind the scenes, and I've been around when promoters are trying to create these events like this, it's not all easy. Things happen, situations happen. You wouldn't do any better, or if you can, definitely do it. But these guys are doing a hell of a lot. So they're giving us a pretty good damn event. I say a great party for all things anime, comics, movies, games out there. And again, let's see what they can do for this year. I think it's leading up to be a very fun event. Once everybody gets there, I know they're going to have a lot of fun. So keep it up. Let's bring it on. And I look forward to seeing all you there. Next week, Select Start, I will be reviewing Kill la Kill If. And maybe the Ninja Warriors, because that was supposed to come out this week, and it never did. So I've been looking at information on why it didn't come out, because it was supposed to come out the same day that the one in Japan come out, and it did come out there, but it didn't. So I don't know what's going to lead into that, but I've read some articles that said the 30th, so we'll see. The 30th also being the day that Avengers Endgame finally releases in digital, by the way, too. So yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of people binging on that all day, whether we're going to be watching all of them or just watching Infinity Wars and Endgame just to put them all together. That's what I'm going to do before I do the Ultimate and watch them all over again leading up to that. It's going to be great, watching the entire Infinity Saga. So, folks, that will do it. And then next week, what am I doing next week? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Oh, I can tell you what. I may actually check out and review The Boys, because the new Amazon series that's coming that came out, the superhero series, a comic book series that came out, it looks like it's going to be some sort of a Watchmen type of show. So maybe I'll check that out and review that next week, or any type of topic that I'll come up with next week. But it's getting down to the wire. We're going to do it. Thank you, everybody, again, for all your support here on Talk Time Live and supporting the show and listening to the show. Shout out to everybody who reached out to me and said that they brought a badge for Sunday just to see my panel. I'm really humbled by that. I'm looking forward to it. I just absolutely want to have fun doing this. So let's get it doing it, and let's keep it growing at all times. So check us out. You can follow me at @Xavier on Instagram. You can check me out there. You can also listen to this episode and every single episode on TalkTimeLive.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and Podbean as well. Pretty soon, hopefully Spotify will be the newest addition to that too. So stay tuned for that. You also want to check out all the interviews that I'm going to have, which, by the way, speaking of which, I just forgot that just then. I am working on getting one of the people behind this year's Keystone Comic-Con to come on, which I believe we're going to be planning to do this week. I'll keep you posted. So there may be a Talk Time Live exclusive for that to let people know what's going to be expected this year at Keystone Comic-Con. So stay tuned for that and much, much more. So again, you can check us out all there. If you want to listen to any exclusives of Mike Moh or any of the people, the biggest names in all things anime, comics, movies, games, game developers, all that stuff. If you want to listen to all of them, you could go to the exclusives page on TalkTimeLive.com, or you could type in directly TalkTimeLive.com/exclusive. Not with the S, exclusive, just singular. You could type it in there and you'll see all the list of all of the people. I still got to add like Yacht Club Games, their interview on there as well. I just added the latest Molly Flanagan interview that I had from last year on there. And probably more to come from there as well. I also got to add the Kevin Conroy press interview that I did last year on there too, which would be like the only video interview that I did on there. So you could check that out for all the exclusives, and then just keep supporting us, and we'll keep, not letting you down and provide you all things A.C.M.G. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it. On behalf of myself, this is Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys this week.